Yo, yo, what's going on? What's going on? Welcome to the show. This is the Laker Forum post-game show. This is the Showtime Forum post-game show for the Lakers. Today has just not one of those days that I want to do the show. But Chaz and he are here. We are here in the room
We
because
here.
we here.
We
We
here.
gonna do it. We gonna buckle through it. It ain't gonna be a long one tonight. But there's plenty to
No, we're
talk
gonna get
about.
right to it tonight.
We're going to get right to it. Lakers lose 105 to 86 to the Thunder. And of course, losing a game after clinching the number one seed is not a surprise, but losing the way we did absolutely is. Shooting 13% from three and 65% from the free throw line was one of the
Oh.
biggest reasons why we lost the game tonight. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we could point to, different players, different point totals, and things like that. But when LeBron James is your highest scorer with 19 points, and you have Anthony Davis on the team, which had single digits in about 29 minutes worth of play tonight, that just lets you know that that's a recipe for disaster. And so we didn't expect this. I mean, after Anthony Davis put up 42 in a game and really came alive and showed what he's capable of, tonight seemed to be the exact opposite. LeBron James seemed to be getting a little bit better. Only played 30 minutes tonight, went 7 of 19 from the field, but was one of the main contributors to our low free throw shooting percentage, only going 5 of 8 from the line. And then there was just a multitude of issues. And so, Chaz, if you could choose one thing, what do you think was the biggest issue tonight?
Couldn't make a shot. We're 1 for 12 from 3-point range at one point. I mean, that's just the bottom line. The only tweet that I sent out during this entire game was, "We can't make a shot."
Yeah.
And LeBron was 0 for 5. Kuz was, there was nobody on the team, on the bench, I should say, coming off the bench that hit a three except for Kuz. He hit 2 threes. Outside of that, KCP hit 1 and Danny Green hit 2. LeBron 0 for 5. AD 0 for 3. JaVale McGee, what are you doing saving a ball up under your own basket? I mean, the defense, Deion Waiters got cooking at the end of the game. Too little, too late. We really missed Dwight on the inside with Steven Adams because he was just manhandling JaVale McGee up and down the court. And CP3 just cooked Quinn Cook, Deion Waiters, Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso still can't make an outside shot. He went 0 for 3 again for maybe the 5th or 6th time in the bubble, including the scrimmage game. So, defense, we're okay. We can stop people from scoring, and that's really what held us in the game the majority of the time. We went down at 21 point at one point, and then pulled within 10, 81 to 71. And as you can see, they went on a 24 to 15 run to end the game. So overall, the lack of shot making isn't going to cut it, and you're not just going to turn it on when the playoffs start. Might be a little bit too late for that because, as you can see, Dave Millard and Carmelo Anthony, CJ McCollum, Nurkic, Whiteside, they're all playing really good. They just beat Houston last night, and they got a good role going on. And that's the team that we're likely going to face in the first round. So
Yeah.
You take a look at how Portland's playing versus how the Lakers are playing right now, more than likely, the way it's trending, they could take that first game right away.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's not looking good, and we got to get it together ASAP.
And this is one of the, I guess if you could say, downsides of clinching a number one seed or being the front runner in a conference is that a lot of these other teams, especially in this bubble scenario, with the records being so close, of course, the play-in tournament that's happening, Memphis hasn't won a game since they've been the restart of the season. So there's a lot of fighting going on for positioning in the seeding, as well as just trying to get into the playoffs. And so there's a different level of focus that is coming from these other teams. What makes championship teams championship level or caliber is their ability to be able to stay focused even when the motivation doesn't show in the record or doesn't
Right.
necessarily show in the necessity of winning a game. And this really was one of the differences between the last Laker championship team and this one. It's not so much just Kobe. Of course, Kobe brought a different mentality, but it was the sense of urgency. It was the coaching of Phil Jackson that kind of kept guys with their foot on the gas. Now, with that being said, the Lakers have endured a tremendous amount of upheaval, really within the last year, going all the way back to last summer with the front office issues, Magic Johnson, of
Right.
course, the free agency issues, and all of that, uprooting most of your young core that you utilized in the previous years. And then, of course, you had the death of Kobe Bryant and coronavirus. But with that also being said, it's still not an excuse to go 65% from the free throw line. The free throw literally
That was, oh man, that was going to be my
it,
next thing. Go ahead.
it's
Sorry.
it's literally where they stop the game and they say, "Hey, you shoot the ball, and we'll make sure nobody messes with you. Just stand right there, shoot it. It's all on you." And to shoot as poorly as we did, it's not just a lack of focus. It's a lack of it's a lack of determination. It's a lack of focus in the practice sessions and things like that. This wasn't dead legs. This wasn't just laziness. This was just a lack of focus and urgency that really, like you said, you can't just turn it on. These teams like Dame Lillard or Portland Trailblazers or even the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are sitting as the sixth seed and really don't have too much to worry about. But CP3 is keeping his foot on the necks of those young guys, and they showed it tonight. They showed it tonight. And while the Lakers, I still believe, will end up holding that trophy at the end of this entire thing, it's not going to happen this way. It's going to require some differences there. Chaz, I'm gonna throw something at you for the first question because we don't have a lot tonight, but I want you to be able to answer this one. Was AD not aggressive again? Is he pacing himself?
AD was flying around defensively, couldn't make a shot. When I can tell when he doesn't make shots early, he's off for the rest of the game. He can't just
Mm,
turn it on. He may get some effort buckets and some things like that just by being AD. But when his jump shot isn't falling, when that face up, behind, step back, whatever he's doing, because he does have a handle as a big man. Whenever he's not making that shot early, he doesn't get into a rhythm and he can't just turn it on in the second half. So that's really what's happened with AD more than anything. The urgency just wasn't there, as you could tell. The OKC Thunder led wire to wire. There was at no point in the game where the Lakers even had or even sniffed a lead at any point. So when you don't get going early and when you're missing a ton of shots, and you could just tell in the way that they just started the game overall, and their overall just sick their lack of urgency, like you said, just their overall demeanor.
yeah,
They didn't look very interested in playing that game at all. Chris Paul did. Shea
all the way.
Alexander did.
Yeah,
Steven Adams did. And that was really just the difference at the end of the day. LeBron, I have to find out. I've been doing all kinds of research trying to figure out how much what LeBron is shooting outside of the paint, because I can only really remember maybe 3 or 4 shots since the bubble started that he's made outside of the paint. So his jump shot is broke as far as I'm concerned. He would even tell you that as well. He's missing all kinds of free throws. He's probably shooting lower than 70% from the line in these games in the bubble. So he knows he needs to get it together. The rest of the team knows. Danny Green definitely knows. It's gonna be good to get Rondo back.
yeah,
I'll say this. I'll say that as well, because to get Rondo back within the next week or two at the latest, or even just have him in the bubble in the next week, just to be there to say whatever he needs to guys to keep it real, for lack of a better term, with everybody. That's really what we need at this point. We need that vocal leader, and not to
yeah,
say that LeBron's not doing a good job, or AD's not doing a good job, or even Jared Dudley being that veteran leader that we have in the locker room. But there's clearly something that's going on that we can improve, and I think Rondo being there is definitely going to help.
yeah.
Because he's going to let everybody know exactly what it is.
And to speak to that, if you watch Chris Paul on the sideline tonight, you saw him instructing and doing a lot of talking to the guards, even pulling them to the side during free throw attempts and things like that. And that is something that Rondo has been praised for since he came to the Lakers. His ability to be able to coach on the floor, even when he's not playing, being able to coach up and to give insight onto what to do, how to play, things like that. Also, Chris Paul was doing a ton of talking, which I know that doesn't sound, like it would be a determination factor in how this game ended, but it does make a difference in the psyche on the court. And that's something that Rondo has been tremendous at doing, has been just
Right.
becoming a nuisance, not only being able to coach players, but to get on the other teams just on their nerves. And one of the things we saw tonight was the biggest flaw in Dion Waiters' game. While he was able to get it going later, one of the things Rondo does very well is be able to slow the game down. Doris Burke said something during the game that really stuck out to me. She said, the Oklahoma City Thunder are controlling the pace of the game, and it's right where they want it in the half court set. And the Lakers, of course, are one of the highest teams in transition. But what Rondo was able to do is in the half court set, there are times where he's able to make sure that he holds with patience until we get the right shot. Unfortunately,
Right.
Dion Waiters he had the green light for some reason tonight, and
Out
maybe
of
it's because
control.
out of control,
He'd be out
out
of
of
control.
control.
I mean, there were a few times actually he started the break and he missed LeBron coming up the right wing, or he
Yeah,
forced a right-handed layup over three guys, or even a
yeah,
left-handed layup over two guys. Rondo will take some of those minutes from Waiters when he comes back. That's for
absolutely.
sure. That's glaring at this
Yeah,
point. Even though Waiters is a good playmaker, Rondo is going to control that pace a little bit more, like you said, and has
yeah.
obviously much more playoff experience. So didn't think we'd ever say this, but Rondo's right on time, actually.
Right on time. And in case you guys don't know, there's been reports that Rondo is preparing to come back into the bubble. Of course, he has to go through protocol to come back in, but he's going to continue his rehab inside the bubble. But just his presence at the practices and on the bench while he's rehabbing is going to be a definite tone setter. He doesn't do a lot of joking in situations like tonight. It would have set a different tone. Of course, not saying LeBron couldn't do it himself, but it just adds another veteran who's won a ring, who understands what it takes in these moments. And to be honest, this is going to sound, very Laker homer, but the Lakers needed a game like this. They needed to be embarrassed before getting into the playoffs, just to remind themselves that these teams are not playing. And while we're waiting to get to the playoffs, most of these teams are already in playoff mode. Forget the
But
four
DeVon,
months.
we already. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off. We already
No,
got embarrassed on Saturday. Thank God we didn't do a post game show on Saturday because we already got embarrassed on Saturday. So I mean, this is the second embarrassment in my opinion. I know Giannis didn't play in the second half against the Nets yesterday, but Bucks lost to the Nets. But at least you can say that they didn't have their best players out on the floor. The
yeah,
Clippers yesterday lost to the Suns, a terrible team, but at least they lost by a buzzer beater.
yeah,
We lost to OKC, albeit a playoff team, a
yeah,
team that we haven't lost to all year, and whether it be twice on the road that we won, once at home, maybe even twice at home, I'm not sure, but we beat them at least three times. I mean, how many more times do we really need to get embarrassed in order to wake up before the playoffs start in the next 12 days? That's
Well,
that's my question.
and that's the point. After that bounce back, or after that game, Lakers come back and they do what they need to do to get things done. Right? The Raptors did what they do, but the difference between the Raptors and the Thunder, and why I wouldn't consider those the same embarrassments, that you're looking at the champ. Right? The Raptors have been a team who
Okay,
have given us
that's
trouble
fair.
for a long time. Right? It reminds me of when Kobe had to go to Toronto had to go to Portland all those years, and he just had a horrible record playing in Portland for some reason. But now you're looking at that at tonight's win as, if you continue to play this way, experimenting with roster or not, if you continue to play this way, it is guaranteed you won't make it past the second round. Maybe not the first round, as you said. If you go against the Blazers, or you go against one of those teams that are really hungry and hot, you're not going to be able to make it. Here's a comment that came from James Michael. JaVale should hold off on vlogging when the playoffs start. And I know this is a crazy question because we joke about it, but what is the problem with JaVale in your opinion?
He just looks out of rhythm. The entire team does. Nobody looks in rhythm. Give me one. Even though AD scored 42 points, right? Was he in a rhythm? Yeah, maybe at the free throw line, but outside of that, I mean, he was maybe the closest player in a rhythm that you would say that was LeBron. We know what he's capable of. He's clearly not in a rhythm. He's ramping up. Danny Green, he just made his first outside shot, to start in the first half within these first bubble games in the first place. So Kuzma, I mean, he had that great game. That second game in the scrimmage game. Again, Vogel didn't play him more than 30 minutes. in the game. Why? I have no idea. I keep saying the same thing. We did the podcast last night. Showtime Forum, shameless plug. Go cop that. Go take a take a look or listen, I should say, in terms of what me and Chris were talking about. I said the same thing about that. I have no idea why Vogel won't play Kuz more than 30 minutes. Maybe his production isn't the greatest, but clearly Kuz is at his best, and we need him to be his best when he plays more than 30 minutes a game. Those Quinn Cook minutes, terrible. I don't know, and I can't really blame Quinn too much because he doesn't get a whole lot of a lot of run anyway. But the 12 minutes he was on the floor, he hit one shot. I mean, CP3 just absolute. I think he cooked him for at least 8 to 12 points in the
Yeah.
12 minutes that he played. So,
Yeah.
and Caruso, like I said, still can't hit an outside shot outside the paint thus far. So
Yeah.
they know what they need to do. I mean, I'm not an NBA player for a reason. They are. They're going back to their hotel rooms,
Right.
and they know what they need to work on, what they need to do. I know LeBron's demeanor is actually getting worse and worse. Even though we won that game against Utah the other night, his demeanor wasn't all that great. And I feel like he's talking to the refs a little bit too much as well.
Yeah.
I know he always does anyway, but I feel like he's talking a little bit more than what he normally does to the refs and complaining a little bit more as well. So lots of things for us to clean up, but we're number one in the West for a reason as well. So
Yeah.
I think we'll be
Yeah.
able to get it together. We got 12 days to do it in 3 more games, and we're 2-2 in these bubble regular season restart games so far. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And just some strange things tonight that I'm just seeing stat wise. We actually had less turnovers than the Thunder, which is crazy. We only had 11, they had 14. And then ironically, we mentioned about the minutes and how many minutes people were getting, but no Laker got more than 30 minutes. In fact, LeBron James topped out with exactly 30 minutes. But I can't remember another time in the season where I saw the entire roster get 30 minutes or less. There was at least one or two players who got plus 30 minutes, and it just shows how much experimenting and rolling around with the roster he was doing today. And speaking of Coach Vogel, but here's another comment for you. I was told CP3 was going to be a problem. This team gives us problems. That comes from Periscope, Winston mobile apps. And you kind of brought that up just a minute ago. We have
No, they
traditionally beat
don't.
them. Get ready to say it. Yeah,
No,
we
they
haven't
don't.
really
They don't.
we haven't lost to
They give
them.
us no issues. I mean,
Yeah,
they're good. They're an NBA team with Chris Paul on it and Steven Adams, but they don't give us any issues like that.
yeah. And what's funny is that our record away from home is 24-9. Their record away is 21-11. So both teams tend to play better on the road, to be honest with you. But even if you go
Hmm.
head to head in a 7 game series, I can't imagine how many people would pick the Thunder over the Lakers, even just judging from the season. So it just seems like Chris Paul's going to do what he does because Chris Paul, to be honest with you, played at an all-team NBA level this year. If you really look at it, right? Just, I mean, his ability to do what he's done. He obviously is not an MVP candidate, but just watching him play, he's doing Chris Paul things. His mid-range
Second
game,
or
his
third
mid,
team.
like third team, but nobody expected
Okay.
that when he got traded from Houston. And so to
Yeah.
watch him do what he's doing, you can't be surprised by his play. What you can be surprised by is watching Anthony Davis go for 9 points after scoring 42 points the game prior. Um, here we go. Here we go. Blake St. Clair from YouTube says, I honestly can't tell if the Lakers are using these games to test the rotation and rest, or if they're trying to win now and taper off towards the end and prepare for the playoffs. It almost seems 50-50 of both. It doesn't look good for either. I know he's doing testing with the rotation, but that can't be the totality of this, right?
No, we're just missing. The bottom line is that our energy looks off. We've already clinched, and our shooting's been terrible. When you shoot 13%, not 33, not 23, when you shoot 13% from beyond the arc, 5 of 37, you're going to lose. In today's game, I mean, OKC didn't shoot that much. I mean, they only made 5 threes as well, but they shot 13 less threes at the same
Yeah.
time, which means that they out rebounded us by 6 rebounds, a total of 10 defensive rebounds, meaning that we were just clanking off the back rim, short, left, right, whatever it was, and giving them additional possessions and running right up the floor as well. So
Yeah, yeah,
once you can make it, I mean, let's say you shoot at least 30% instead of 13. Maybe instead of losing by 19, we lose by 8. I mean, and at that
yeah,
point, and then at that point, it's anybody's ball game once you have LeBron and AD on the court at the same time. So you just have to make shots. If you can make shots, wide open shots that you have to make, like Danny Green being wide open in the first quarter on the
yeah,
right wing, can't make a shot. Alex Caruso, I hate harping on him so much, but I mean, I haven't seen him make a three literally all bubble long. Maybe one in one of the scrimmage games,
yeah,
off of a Dion Waiters in and out move. So
yeah.
I wish I could say the only thing positive that I can really say right now is that our defense is good. It's not the
Yeah,
best, but it's still there. It's good. They try on defense. I don't see Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith and Markieff Morris out of position as much. We do still foul a lot. That's just
yep.
what we've done all season. But our defense has been stout, and once we can start making shots, a lot of these games will look a lot better than what they have. But again, my question is, how many more times do you have to be embarrassed to start playing well?
Yeah, and what you also want, I tweeted about this. Another thing to factor into this, and this is not an excuse, but just I want you to factor in. We're actually seeing now how much the Lakers really relied on adrenaline from the Staples Center crowd. There were just moments where tonight that the crowd probably would have had their energy going a little bit more, but that's still not good because you don't want to rely, especially for a team that has a road record as good as we do. But we're privileged. We traditionally have a 50-50 crowd in just about every city that we visit, with the exception of places like Boston, of course. But for the most part, Lakers have been able to feed off of crowd noise and things like that. And tonight, it's strictly them. There's no antics on the crowd that on the bench that people are going to care about. You're not able to like play to the crowd as LeBron tonight. And tonight was a great example of that. You have to play the game of basketball within that bubble and within that team, and you have to come ready, with or without a crowd, with or without the refs on your side. You got to be able to play. And tonight, they just weren't there. Winston Mobile App says, "I'm not worried about tonight's game." But Houston is another story. Please believe that Houston is going to be a tough game as well. It's very possible we could lose that game, but I do not anticipate a repeat of tonight. I think that we're going to see a little bit different energy from the team. My biggest question is how long do we keep JaVale in the first quarter? How many minutes should he play before we take him out, knowing that he's having issues getting in rhythm with the offense?
A couple things. Number one, great point on the crowd. When it was 81-71, if that was a game at home, we could have easily pulled within 4, 6, 2, and then, could have taken the lead at that point, just feeding off the crowd alone. So that's a great point that you made. Number two, I actually expect us to lose tomorrow with the way that Houston's playing. They're playing some of the best basketball in the bubble right now, even though they lost to Portland. Um, but they beat the Bucks, and I believe they beat the Mavericks as well. Both or one of which it was in a crazy overtime game. So Houston and Portland, in my opinion, along with Indiana and Phoenix, somehow are playing the best basketball in the bubble right now. So, with facing Houston, I for one, I off of a back-to-back, I fully expect us to lose tomorrow, unless we can shoot better than 35% from three.
Uh,
So
or better than 65% from the free throw line. I mean, just if we wanted to throw this out here, if we had just made all of our free throws, it would have just been a single digit game, even with us shooting 13% from three. Blake Sinclair says something, and I want to address it because he's kind of pointed this out, but I want to disagree with it, and you can kind of be the tiebreaker on this. He says, "I'm done hearing excuses for Green and Kuzma, professionals who don't turn up more than 25% of the time. Toughen up and realize your job ain't that hard. You don't carry a team. Kuzma and Green have had no impact on the game unless they score." I'm going to disagree for Kuzma. I feel like his defense has stepped up. I feel like he's staying in front of players more. There was even a play tonight where he got blown by Steven Adams and was able to recover and actually block a lob from behind, which is not
yes,
easy if you've ever watched anybody do that. I see his effort there. He's the fifth highest in shooting 3-point percentage when it comes since their NBA restart. Tonight, he had the highest percentage for the Lakers, only going 2 of 5. Obviously, that doesn't mean much when you shoot 13%, but he has become one of our more consistent three-point shooters. In fact, he's shooting the way that we were expecting Danny Green to shoot the whole year. Just make your threes. And Kuz seems to be picking it up a little bit. Of course, he has room to grow. But I do think that Kuzma has actually earned himself a little bit more respect in these last 3 games.
I would agree with that. Kuz, he's vastly improved on the defensive end, and I can't even really give all the credit to his actual defensive skill. I think it was more so him getting healthy because he wasn't
Yeah,
healthy to start the season. And when you're trying to play and catch up all season long, and then you get to the All-Star break, that was when he really was starting to turn the corner, especially in that last game against Memphis. I'm sorry, not Memphis, Milwaukee, and the Clippers before the hiatus started on March 12th. So um, I would agree with Kuz. As far as Danny Green, his defense has actually been the same as it's been all year, but the guy's just got
yeah,
to not the guy's. I mean, he's still knocking balls from behind people and getting good deflections, and he is out of position quite a bit on line drives or drives to the basket, but we pay him $15 million to knock down wide open threes, and you can't miss wide open threes. Maybe Caruso can, maybe Deion Waiters can, maybe J.R. Smith can, because maybe we're paying those guys minimum dollars. But if we're paying you what, $15 million per year on a 2-year deal with a player option next year to make wide open shots, and you start the game, you got to step up there. You got to step
that's the
up.
key.
So
That's
I
the key.
I, I
You're
won't I,
getting,
I won't I won't agree with Kuz, but I will agree with
yeah,
Danny Green.
yeah. Yeah, and here's a great question. If this was a 7 game series, how do you think the Lakers would respond in game 2 if this was game 1?
Well, I can't really equate it because there are not going to be any back to backs in the playoffs. So how
Right.
we play tomorrow would not be indicative of how we would play in a 7 game series. Like I said, I fully expect us to lose second night of a back to back while shooting the way that we have been. If we do, I'll be the first person happy as hell that I was wrong. But if this was a 7 game series, I would expect them to get their bearings in an off day, have a good shoot around, have a good practice, have a tongue lashing from Rondo, KCP, Bron, AD, whoever needs to step up. And then we would go out and handle our business because we haven't lost 2 in a row very many times the entire season. That's been our motto. So, but coming off of a back to back in the bubble, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't have a whole lot of confidence. But like I said, I'll be the first person to gladly accept being wrong if we win tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, the last thing we want to start in the bubble is a losing streak. So hopefully these guys turn it around by tomorrow, but it doesn't look good. Tamarino and Twitch, good to see you, says, "What's up, guys? We clearly still have no idea what our bench rotation is going to look like. Could it be that we are really actually missing Rondo? I think we addressed that already. We're also shooting 26% from 3 in the bubble. This number actually drops if we take AD's attempts out. Which, to be honest, the
Ooh,
Lakers were never a great 3-point shooting team. We were better than this, but season wide, we have traditionally struggled. We have streaky shooters who tend to be able to get stuff going, but for the most part, it's an ebb and flow. You'll have some games where LeBron can hit 4 or 5 threes, and then some games where like tonight, I don't even think I think he may have hit 1 3, if that. Yeah, LeBron didn't hit
0.
any threes. 0 5. Yeah,
0
he
for
was 0 of
5.
5. Yeah, and he was launching them from everywhere behind that 3-point line.
Short,
Um,
long, left, right, didn't matter.
yeah, he was slightly he was well, and I've actually seen reports of this. I can't validate it. I don't know how true it is, but that he's struggling. Apparently, he had some kind of groin issue against the Toronto Raptors, and it's been kind of lingering. And I haven't seen any other reports about that. I read that on Twitter somewhere from some random guy who had a check mark, but it's looking very much like either he's conserving energy or there's just something that's not right because LeBron, even though he's been driving, he had 7 of 19 tonight, and a lot of those were just like you said, not mid-range shots. This man was driving to the hole, and
To the hole.
he was missing a lot of just
Mhm.
simple layup ones. Of course, he had like 2 or 3 people on him, but they're ones he normally makes. And so I'm not sure what that is, if it's just the shooting slump, if it's the fact that these guys have been trapped in a bubble and they can't have their normal access to fun or their wives or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
It just seems like there's something that's off a little bit with LeBron. AD seems to come in and out depending on what's going on and who they're playing. He'll turn it up for a Clipper game and then turn it down for an Oklahoma City Thunder game. Not sure what that
Yeah.
is, but if we treat the 8 seed the way we treated the Thunder tonight, it's possible we won't make it out. We have to treat the
Yes,
8 seed just as much as we would treat the Clippers.
we could very well go 500 for the rest of the time, the entire time that we're in here in the bubble, uh, because we get up for that Clippers game, then we have a lull against Toronto, get up for the Utah game because we lost the last game, have a lull against OKC, might
Yeah.
get up tomorrow because it's Houston and because we lost the previous game, but I forget who we play after that. What is it? Sacramento? I'm not sure.
No,
But
Sacramento's our
we'll
very
probably
last one.
not sure who we play after that. But it could just be ebb and flows throughout the entire time in the bubble. But I'm confident we still have the most championship experience. This doesn't mean that don't let my energy get you guys down because I'll be honest, I'm not. I'm just. I know what we can be and what we should be and what we were before the hiatus, and we're not that team right now. And I keep thinking back to Anthony Davis saying, "I like our chances better now that we've had the time off." Well, actually, at the same time, your shooting touch isn't there. Your
Yeah.
your your defensive effort is there, and your mind's there, but the urgency and just the overall offensive touch and just the chemistry with adding three new guys, essentially with Markieff, Dion, and Jr. Trying to incorporate those guys, having Rondo go out, come back in. It's a lot of moving parts, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we still have the best player in the game, the most championship experience, 4 more games to go in this bubble, and luckily, we're playing. We have the number 1 seed, so we're playing a team that's not traditionally that good. Portland might be actually the best 8 seed that we've seen in quite some time,
Yeah.
given the layoff that they have and getting Nurkic and Zach Collins back, along with Carmelo Anthony hitting big shots and playing as well as he has all year long. So uh, should be interesting to see.
Yeah. And listen, man, like we're not going to drag out tonight. I mean, it is what it is. There's not really much we can say.
Yeah, yeah,
We got mollywopped tonight, and we sucked, and it
straight up.
happens. This is not the same as when the Lakers got shellacked by the Mavs in the playoffs. I remember that, and Andrew Bynum almost threw JJ Barea into the locker room. But
I love
those are
that, by
tough.
the way, because I love that. I love
I
that.
should have
Good point.
known you would have loved that play. If you
I
remember
love
that
that.
feeling, man, that feeling was
Oh,
it was
that
very
elbow, that
the
elbow with
elbow.
him going up. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
we needed that because he was just going to the basket and just laying it up on us all series longs, and Andrew Bynum had it by then, so I
yeah,
was okay with that elbow on
yeah,
Barea.
yeah. He had a bad boy piston moment, and we have seen in the last decade or so, we've seen championship teams have just tough games, and they've had games where they just don't bring it. We're seeing a little bit too much of it from this current team, and they haven't won a championship yet. So it's one of those things that you're really hoping that they get together. But just kind of just finalizing, what the rest of the season looks like. We have Houston, and then we have the Pacers. That's the game after the Rockets. Either one of those, you can go 1-for-1 in those. I don't think it's going to matter as much. But what's important to understand and what you want to watch is how the seeding is going for the rest of these teams. Of course, you have the Jazz and the Thunder and the Rockets and the Mavs and the Grizzlies and the Blazers and the Spurs and the Pelicans and the Suns. All of these teams are kind of in this space of battling for the correct seed. And so, as crazy as it sounds, it didn't sound like Memphis was going to be catchable. But since they haven't won a game yet, it has made it
Oh,
very much a possibility for Portland, who literally is one game back from Memphis. And the way they're playing, like you said, it could very much be a Dame Lillard, C.J. McCollum versus AD and LeBron in the first round, and it would be extremely entertaining. but I don't want to have that level of anxiety going into the playoffs first time in 6 7 years. So
Neither do I. Neither do
yeah,
I. But it's very likely that Memphis is the 10 seed when
mhm,
all is said and done, and they don't even make it to the play-in game with the way
yeah,
that they're playing. It could be Portland Trail Blazers and the San Antonio Spurs in that play-in game, and the Blazers only have to win one game in order to solidify their spot. Because the
yeah.
way Memphis is only a game up in the loss column over San Antonio, and and it separates them by one game over Portland in the win column. So that very well could happen.
And I'm going to sound very ignorant right now, but I don't really know how this play-in game works. So, from my
Okay.
understanding, you have to be within 4 games, I believe, of that eighth seed.
Yeah, so that's pretty much solidified at this point. I, with only 4 games left, and only being one game, 1.5 games out. Portland being that team, that's the 9 seed that would be playing the playing games with Memphis. Assuming that they do have to play each other, then Memphis would only have to. They would play pretty much a 3 game series, and Memphis would only have to win one of those games, and Portland would have to win 2 of those games in order to win the series, in order to solidify that 8th seed. So if what I say happens and Portland somehow gets up to 8, Memphis continues to lose, and San Antonio moves up to 9, then that means Portland only has to beat San Antonio one time to secure the 8th seed, and then they face the Lakers in the first round. So
That's extremely confusing to me. And to be honest with you, I'm hoping everything happens except the Blazers. But to be honest,
yeah,
I feel like the Lakers can beat the Blazers. I just feel like they're going to have to bring their A game. And I was really hoping that we could save our energy in that first. I wanted to see the Memphis Grizzlies. I love what John Morant has done, but it looks like it's not paying off for them in the end because they could very well miss the playoffs and get so close. It's so crazy. But with all that said, we're just going to look at the next couple of games for the Lakers, and so that we understand what we're up against, what we're looking for, and then we're going to end the night a little bit early. So let me pull it up for us right now. As we said, we have the Houston Rockets who've been playing out of their mind. They've always had James Harden, but just adding in Russell Westbrook, who traditionally was on the Thunder. And that was a whole nother issue back then. That's something that we were accustomed to seeing separately. Is we would hit that road trip, hit Dallas, hit Houston, maybe hit San Antonio, run up to
Road
Oklahoma City and do,
Warriors.
yeah, Road Warriors, man. And it turns out that now they're on the same team, and you're talking about two MVP. You're talking about a team that legitimately can score whenever they feel like scoring. And of course, they're running small ball, which benefits us in a half court game, but it does not benefit us when you have the two-headed monster in that backcourt like those two. So, with that being said, we have them. I don't know what to make of the Pacers after that. I know Oladipo decided to come into the bubble and to play, but I don't know how
TJ
much of a
Warren
difference.
balling.
TJ Warren, and somebody asked me this question when I posted about Kuzma being the fifth highest in 3 point shooting percentage. TJ Warren is third. So he's 2 spots ahead of Kuz when it comes to 3 point shooting. So TJ Warren has just been, I mean, he's been not just 3 point shooting. That aside, he's just
Lights
been
out.
playing out of his mind. Yeah. And then after that, we played Denver. And then the last game we have is against Sacramento, which is yet to be determined. I'm not sure if that's because they don't know if it's going to happen or not. But Sacramento doesn't even seem like they belong in the bubble.
No, just
But,
like the Washington Wizards.
just like the Washington Wizards, but they got in. So Houston, Pacers, and then, of course, the Denver Nuggets. And so we'll know. We'll know what this team looks like by that Nugget game. We'll know what we're looking at. I'm sure rotations will be solidified. And you'll probably see all of the bench playing that Sacramento's King game. You will probably won't see not one starter playing any kind of significant minutes in that last game. So Denver will let us
Two and
know.
two.
2-2, and
Two
I'm
and
not
two.
mad at that. I'm not mad at that. 2-2 is not a problem for me. So we appreciate you guys jumping into the chat tonight and just joining us on this on this short post game. But we wanted to make sure that we touch base, and I'm seeing all of these right. Like Al Sanchez says Kyrie messed up this team by talking Avery Bradley out of playing. Blake St. Clair says work from the paint out, spam the post if you have to. Um, and it's just a whole lot of different things here. Tamarino, if Danny Green doesn't pick it up, by, let's say, midway through the first round of the playoffs, is there any chance Vogel adjusts the starting lineup? I can answer that and say no. Is it crazy to think that J.R. Smith could wind up playing some huge minutes in important situations given his championship experience and his chemistry with Braun?
Yes,
That's not a
it's possible.
far-fetched idea. It's, yeah, like
It's
you said, it's
possible.
very possible.
It's possible. You know
Yeah.
what? You know what Vogel should do if he just to spice things up because we're playing like trash right now. Um, he should take JaVale out, move AD to the 5, especially against small ball Houston, and
Mm-hmm.
start Kuz
Mm-hmm.
or Markeith or
Mm-hmm.
whoever he wants to, but just do something to spice things up, just to get things going. Obviously, you're just testing things out. Nobody's going to really play in that Sacramento game, and Indiana and Denver. Those are just games that we're just going to have just to have. But you don't want to rest guys because you want guys in a good rhythm. But I think that they should definitely put Houston I'm sorry, take JaVale out against Houston and have somebody else start just to spice things up and see if it creates a little bit more energy and urgency. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but hopefully we win. But I'm not counting on it.
We'll see. We'll see, man. I'm looking for Vogel to make his case for why he should stay the Lakers coach long term, and it's gonna matter in the playoffs. And I think what you're saying right now, spicing it up and doing that, that's a very Phil Jacksonish move, man. I love it. I think it takes a certain level of confidence to know, like, I know it's probably going to mess with some of my people and mess with a JaVale who has championship pedigree and knows how to do stuff, but it can really get things shaken up and get people back into the mindset that nothing is guaranteed, and that you got to earn your way into these spots.
Yeah,
Let's not forget, this is how they started off with the roster. Nobody knew who was playing what minutes. The first preseason few games there, we were unsure of who was getting what and who was supposed to be doing things. And we weren't sure if Rondo or Avery Bradley was going to start. And people had to earn their minutes. It should be no different going into the playoffs. So, with that being
true.
said, with that being said, we are going to see you guys again tomorrow night after the Rockets game. Win or lose, we're going to be here. We're going to
We're
be
gonna
open
be
to
here.
commentary. Yeah, I'm hoping for a Rockets win. I mean, a Rockets loss and a Lakers win. But we'll see how it goes. But until that time, man, Chaz, you want to put any plugs in regards to tomorrow?
Uh, Golden Knight, hit up the merch. Aldel del Toro, hit up Can't Beat LA. Check out the new podcast on ShowtimeForum.com and the new website, revamped website, as well as the new articles that we have going up.
Yep.
And stay tuned, like I said, for all the post game shows after here, and put in all your comments because we're going to get to a lot of them, regardless, win or lose, sunshine or rain or whatever it is. We're going to do a full post game show and go in on whatever it is that we see tomorrow night. So
Yeah.
hopefully they prove me wrong, but let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens, guys. Until then, we'll check you